Today's episode of Darkness Radio is brought to you by Microdose. Get out of pain, get out of anxiety, and start treating yourself a little bit better. Try Microdose. Microdose is a CBD THC gummy that will get you out of pain, get you out of anxiety, and get you into feeling good again. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use the code DARKNESS to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com, code DARKNESS. Welcome in, everybody, to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Have a good show for you this afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, folks. I read a very interesting book this past weekend, one that I was absolutely riveted to. The book is called Love Me to Death. It's the chilling true story of William Wild Bill Cody Neal, the vicious Denver lady killer. That's the name of the book. It's put out there by Steve Jackson, who is a New York Times bestseller. He is a New York Times bestselling author and award-winning journalist, Steve Jackson is. He's written 13 nonfiction books in true crime, history, and biography genres. He's also written 14 crime fiction thrillers for the long-running and New York Times bestselling Butch Karp Series in collaboration with former New York Assistant District Attorney Robert K. Tanenbaum. Now, Steve's most recent best-selling biography, All Secure, a special operations soldier's fight to survive on the battlefield and home front, has more than 700 reviews on Amazon with a 4.8 out of 5 stars rating. A new historical true crime, Coal Country Killing, A Culture, a Union, and the Murders That Changed It All, is co-authored with Tanenbaum and is due to be released in spring of this year. He is currently working on a sequel to his best-selling true crime, No Stone Unturned. He's also the co-owner of indie publisher Wild Blue Press, and we are blessed to have him with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome into the program Steve Jackson. Steve, welcome so much to True Crime Tuesday. I got to tell you, I know before we came on today, I might have misspoke and said I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I meant to say that I enjoyed. I shouldn't say enjoyed the book. You came up with the perfect word for it. What was it?
Oh, I think fascinating or intriguing or interesting. Yes, very tough with true crime to say I enjoyed the book. It's considering the subject matter, it's tough, and that there are still victims and that sort of thing. But they are fascinating. I find these cases, or at least the cases I get involved with, a real window on the human condition. And I think that's worth examining, as is our justice system, and how does it and doesn't it work.
You nailed it right on the head there, Steve. There are idiosyncrasies in this whole system that allow some people that may have, I guess, for lack of a better term, defects in character to kind of skate through and do some of the most heinous things. And Wild Bill Cody Neal is one of those men who has, you can't quite say it's mental illness because it isn't. He was of sound body and mind when he committed the crimes he committed, and we'll talk about those crimes in a minute. If anything, he was very lucid when he did what he did. Could you say that?
Well, I think there we get into the difference that's misunderstood a lot between criminally insane and somebody having a mental illness or a personality disorder. With criminally insane, that person doesn't really understand the difference between right and wrong. They may, to a degree, but knowing that they don't want to get caught, but they also think they're the person they shot was a space alien, or they are truly not in this world. the person with and therefore they may be found criminally insane and not responsible, sent to a mental hospital as opposed to a prison. With the personality disorder, when it arises to the criminal level, these people, whether it's the extreme narcissist or sociopath or someone along these lines, they know the difference between right and wrong. They just don't care. Mm-hmm. And so they are responsible for their actions. And William Neal definitely has a personality disorder. He's a sociopath and a narcissist, and he's got a bunch all thrown in there. So he was criminally responsible for what he did, but there is a difference, and that's the very basic version of it.
Before we get into him and his background, his character, and how he came to do what he did, let's talk for a moment about what we're on right now, and that is splitting hairs, if you will, in our system as to what we were just talking about, and that is the difference between a personality disorder and the criminally insane. How thin is that line, Steve? Having dealt with this all your life and all your career, how thin is that line, and where is the line? Can you tell us where that line is?
Well, I think that the basics of the line is knowing the difference between what you did was right or wrong. And there are some things that give it away. Somebody may act crazy. I mean, murdering numbers of people, a serial killer. It sounds crazy to those of us who don't do those sorts of things. And but you'll see this person who does these things and then takes a lot of steps to avoid detection, or so they go on for years because they're usually very clever and these sorts of things. So they knew that what they were doing was wrong. They just went ahead and did it anyway. Now, the crazy person, and why they tend to get caught a little faster, may do a similar sort of thing, kill 3 people with an axe. And but this person isn't, maybe is just sitting there waiting for the police when they come, or really doesn't take many steps to get away with what they did, because what they did is, they may have every sort of reason, from I'm protecting the rest of society from these aliens, or, or these people were out to kill me. And so therefore I did it, even though there's no evidence of that sort of thing. So they don't, I won't say they don't mix. You would say you're either criminally insane, you have passed that threshold, or you have these personality disorders. We all have personality characteristics. Mm-hmm. Most of us have some antisocial parts. There are lots of your friends who will probably have some narcissism in them.
Sure.
This is just part of the human condition. That's who we are. Is we all have little idiosyncrasies and that sort of thing. In that, when it becomes a disorder, is when it does something to your life, that person's life. This may be the person who likes to neatly line up his pencils on his desk and his paper clips, and before he can go home at night, and somebody comes along and fiddles with it with their finger, might piss him off or something like that. And so he's got a obsessive compulsive disorder with trying to keep his world extra neat and stuff, but it's not a disorder, it's a personality characteristics. But that person comes along and messes up his pencils and paper tabs, and it's okay to be a little upset with that. Nobody has the right to do that. It's when somebody comes along and messes with his pencils and his paper clips, and he grabs the pencil and stabs him in the leg with it. That's when it has gone from an eccentricity to a disorder there.
Yeah.
So
understandable. So we're at this point where we've got this man who's Bill Neal, or as we know him, Bill Neal. But there comes a time where he starts identifying himself as something else. And let's get into the story of Wild Bill Cody Neal, which he starts to change up his name at different times. But let's get into his story and tell us a little bit about his beginnings and who exactly is Wild Bill Cody Neal.
Well, in some ways, that's a good question and a tough one to answer. I mean, from what I know, this book was written quite a while ago, the original edition of it, because I covered it when the trial was actually, or the death penalty hearing was actually going on, and interviewed Neal several times, once for several hours face to face. And he tells a lot of stories. He tells a lot of stories about his beginnings and who he is and what he was doing. And it's all over the board. We know he was basically, he was part of a family. His father was in the Air Force, sort of a normalish sounding, background family life. He had a mother who doted on him. But he was always a little bit different, very full of himself, definitely a narcissist, and schemer and constantly scamming things. A good example in the book of a kind of a minor thing he would do with that one of his first wife noticed was he would make an order at McDonald's or something, and then he would go back in, or not even order, he would just walk back into the store and say, "Hey, my hamburger was missing from my order," and that's something he never asked for or paid for, and just scam getting a hamburger out of it. So it's a small thing, but it shows this sort of level of scheming and manipulation and how some people go about their lives. He probably had the money for that hamburger. He just didn't want to pay it, so he went in and cheated the business out of their $1.49 or whatever it costs for a McDonald's hamburger. And he just thought of himself as clever for doing those sorts of things. It's, when you explain to the public that, you're a smart businessman by not paying any taxes, it's the sort of thing where you feel your level of cleverness and your intelligence entitles you to more than other people get. And that's who he was and how he kind of came on. He's very glib. He can talk his way out of a paper bag or whatever, wet paper bag or however I'm forgetting the saying now, but and he can present himself as a lot of different types of characters. And in some ways, he is a good enough of a BS artist that he can pull some of it off. He'll suddenly have rich and famous friends who he's convinced that he has other rich and famous friends and has managed to get himself in with these people. So that his beginning seemed pretty normal. We don't know about quite a bit of it. We sort of pick up the story other than what we get from some of the trial stuff and what other people knew from his mother and sister and stuff. Some of his childhood. When I met him, he went through everything. He lied about things. How he was abused by his dad, which apparently wasn't true. It was hard to always tell what, William Neal was, when he was telling the truth and when he was not, because I'm not sure he knew sometimes.
That's what's interesting about this book is there's a lot to sift through with him to determine what is real and what isn't. You just pointed out one of them, that he claims that it was everything from abuse from his father to, well, it was, spare the rod, spoil the child. He believed in corporal punishment, but he was stern. And he has a real hard time separating. And he says he has it all separated, that he was playing con games with people. And much like Ted Bundy, he had to live the part in order to convince people. But it really feels like he got lost in some of these parts at times, don't you think?
Yeah, or caught up in it, is when you tell a lie, okay, you can get away with that lie for a little bit, but now you have two, and then you have a dozen, and you've told different lies to different people. And so now you're juggling, and when these people start to compare stories and stuff, it falls apart. So I don't know if he didn't believe some of it, or if he believed some of it, or said something often enough that he believed some of it was true. Hard to tell. Hard to tell with him. I think he knows the truth for the most part. I think he knew most of it, but yeah, I think he just got caught up in a web of his own lies that he did for years and years and years and years and years. And, the thing with some of these guys, whether it's Ted Bundy or Gacy, or how do these serial killers get caught? A lot of it is they start running out of steam.
Yeah.
They get older. It's harder to keep the lies together. It's harder to keep what I call the mask on with people like sociopaths in particular, and people like Ted Bundy and killers we know, who have these personality disorders. They know there's something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. They know there's something that society does not accept. With, hey, I want to kill these people and maim them and torture them and do all these sorts of things. And I think it's fun and that sort of thing. But they know society is going to frown on that. So, how many times do we hear about a Bundy or a Gacy or Cody being arrested, and the neighbors say, "Oh, he's just the nicest guy."
Yeah,
he used to walk my mother to the mailbox, and oh, he was a clown for kids' parties, and he's all these sorts of things. Just because they know they have to, and they're supermen. The women who get involved with these guys, it's like, oh, he was just such a gentleman, and he was always, bringing me flowers and all these other sorts of things, and defending me and these things. It's because they know they have to cover up what they really are. So sometimes they become super men, super people, extra good, almost unbelievably good. I sometimes have lectured women's groups, or even at the police academy. I remember in particular one, it was a group of women involved in violent crime sort of agencies and that sort of thing. And somebody asked me, well, how do you know who's the serial killer, And I said, only half jokingly, I said, you go to the bar and there's that guy that comes and he sits down next to you and he's super nice. And he just sits there and listens to you cry about your life for 3 hours and doesn't interject anything about himself in there. He doesn't turn the story to himself. And if he asks for your phone number, he actually calls you the next day and sends you flowers, and he's nice about it and all these sorts of things. I said, if you meet a guy like that, run. Because I said that's not normal male behavior. What guy sits there for 3 hours without trying to tell you what a football star he was, or or how he went through his own sort of thing and tries to. And I'm only half kidding there, because if it's not a normal conversation, if it's not, and I'm not saying all guys have to be jerks and everybody you meet, and you certainly want to meet a nice guy or a nice woman or something like that, and not have to think everybody who is nice to you is the serial killer. But, when it's extraordinarily and something doesn't feel right to you, that's a good time to put questions. But at the same time, these guys know how to pick their prey. Yeah. I teach martial arts and self-defense as well. The lion doesn't pick out the strongest zebra in the crowd or the fastest. He's looking for the one who's not feeling so good and is kind of hanging back and that sort of thing. So, it's not to put fault on the victims. Of course, it's not the victims' But, they do find somebody, they tend to find people, not all of them. I mean, Bundy just broke into, sororities and went after whoever he wanted to go after. But a lot of times when it's somebody in this William Neal sort of vein, where he's comes off as such a great guy, and he's such a warm, compassionate human being, and things like that, is that they are, how do I want to put this? They're looking for vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for the woman who, if you treat her really nice and send her flowers and that sort of thing, is going to start believing your lies. And whether he started off intending to kill these people eventually when he got caught, that is a question in here. But he certainly meant to, take their money and, doing all these other sorts of things. And then he had no compunctions about killing them when it came to where his story was falling apart.
Yeah, that is a very good question as to whether the intent really was there when he started to lure these women in, or was it just the money aspect? And we are going to talk about that in the second half of the program here. I want to reflect a little bit just on the childhood here for a second. And that is this question I want to raise here with you, Steve. There's a question of whether he tortured animals on purpose and the amount of animals he tortured, because we know that is one of those things with a psychopathic serial killer personality, is that they do tend to start with animals. And it came out throughout discovery, especially after he was arrested and into the discovery phase of the trial and into the trial. And I know we're jumping ahead quite a bit here, but just dealing with his childhood, that he was increasingly cruel to animals. But whether this was truth or not, I got to ask you, as someone who sat down with him, do you feel that this was true, or were these exaggerated stories? Because the way he was crafting these stories, he was making it seem like these animals were attacking him first, and he was justified in doing some sort of action towards the animal.
And I think there's the clue right there on whether it was true or not. I think it's true. And part of it is him justifying it. If he was somebody who, when I was younger, I kind of, wanted to see what it would feel like, and I killed a dog or I killed a cat or something like that. And I was horrified and remorseful, and I felt bad ever since. That's a normal response, But with Cody, it was always, this puppy bit him, or this, or cat scratched him, or something like that. So boom, he would always say, I killed it.
Yep.
And stuff. And sort of him exhibiting power and dominance over something, and then coming around. I mean, it's the same. He does the same thing when it comes to his human victims, is that he justified it. They were going to rat him out. They were doing things he told them not to, looking into his background. They were, he didn't want to do it, but they kind of forced his hand. Same thing with the animals. And that's why I think there's probably truth to him being that sort of person.
And there's also, with that vindication, there's also, and justification, there's also a feeling like that vindication or justification comes from on high. And it's also slipped out a little bit that, and we all know eventually when a lot of these killers get into jail, they find God, or they find religion.
Right.
Do you think all along he thought that he was justified by some other force, that something came into his life and gave him the justification to do these acts?
I didn't see him using "God told me to do it" a lot in his, either with the animals as a child or with humans later on. He tends to do that more once he got caught and put in jail and stuff. Now, I think he has some religious background, some strict upbringing that kind of had some things working. But I don't recall from the hours and hours and hours of police interviews he did or interviews with me where he was saying God told me to do it. So that's something a crazy person might do. As somebody who's criminally insane and truly crazy, is that, I killed her because I heard a voice in my head that was God telling me to do it. That's when we're saying, okay, there's a difference there. He mostly got religion, once he got caught, and especially once he got to prison.
Yeah.
I have kind of a funny story, maybe for the ending about that, but a little back and forth he and I had on how he was forgiven and I was the devil's typesetter and stuff like that. But
sure.
we can get to that a little later.
Absolutely. The reason I ask that, Steve, is just this, because it seems to me as I was reading through the book that it felt to me that not only was there this heavy feeling of ego. I mean, the ego is there, that everything he does is justified. Don't cross me. Don't question me. Ultimately I'm the authority here. But as the book goes on, there becomes, as he gets to jail, he does find religion, but you wonder if religion is an ego play or is religion really being found? You always question that. Is it a way to save my life so they don't kill me? Or is it really genuinely found? I guess is the question.
Well, I don't think he was finding religion so they don't kill me. I don't think there was that came into it. I think maybe he's a little more afraid of the afterlife and is trying to, has been told, you can be forgiven for anything. So he's buying into that. And I think he's buying into it like you would, an insurance policy.
Well, there's an interesting statement that you bring up in the book, and that's his entire life. He was told this one statement, you can always turn back, turn. I don't remember the exact quote, but
right.
But it, whenever you're going down the wrong path, you can always turn back, turn. He said it was an old statement from an old Turk, I believe is what it was. In other words, whenever you feel like you're being deceptive, whenever you feel like you're going down the wrong path, or you need forgiveness, you can always turn back. There's always forgiveness. And he quotes that to some of the women he does wrong, to some of the women he kills. He says, if you ever feel like you're going down that wrong path, turn back. So, but that's just a justification. I always felt like that was just a justification for him to kill them. It was. Well,
he certainly never employed it himself.
Right.
If he'd wanted to in any one of those cases, he could have gone to any of those women and said, hey, I'm really sorry. I kind of fed you a story and I borrowed or took $30,000 from you, and it's untrue. And I would like to find a way to pay you back and ask for your forgiveness. That's going down the wrong path and turning back and that sort of stuff. I took $30,000 from her and she's starting to talk to people. I'm afraid she's going to go to the police. I better kill her is not exactly turning down the path.
No, it's not. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about what exactly Wild Bill Cody Neal did to these women, who these women are, and why some of them got away and some of them didn't. Believe it or not, some of them lived to tell the tale. The women he trespassed against, we could put it that way. And why he chose some to die and why he chose some to live. We'll talk about that when we come back. The book is a very interesting one indeed. Love Me to Death. The book is written by our guest, Steve Jackson, a New York Times bestseller. The rest of the book, the chilling true story of Wild Bill Cody Neal, the vicious Denver lady killer. But just look up Love Me to Death. It's put up by Wild Blue Press. We'll have a link for it in the description of this program. And by all means, we want you to check it out during the break. When we come back, why was it that William Neal picked some of these women to die and let others live. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Best in True Crime Podcasting, True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the Best in True Crime Podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Our guest is Steve Jackson. He's a New York Times best-selling author and has, I think we're well on the way to another bestseller here, Love Me to Death, the chilling true story of William Wild Bill Cody Neal, the vicious Denver lady killer. Steve, let's go down that road now and describe this fateful amount of events. Mind you, they're not all compacted into a few days. This goes over a few years. But William Neal kind of shows up on the scene, and he starts, let's just say, racking up the marriages, and starts a pattern where he starts to come up with a story, starts selecting a victim or a wife, one or the other, however you want to put it. Bilks some money out of them, leaves them, goes to another. Let's start first of all with the first wife. Tell us about the first wife that William Neal has, and what he does and why he leaves.
Well, this is obviously early on. I am forgetting the years there, how much ahead of this, but quite some time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was young and charming and outdoorsy, and he met a woman who was outdoorsy and quite taken with this. And he basically charmed her off her feet, seemed to be able to back up the things and boasts that he was talking about. Really turned it on. I mean, the guy, definitely had game when it came to his little seduction practices and stuff. And for a while, he had her kind of jumping through his hoops. If you read the book, you'll sit there. Sometimes I get people who say, "Why did she stay with that? Boy, I could have seen that coming 1,000 miles away," and this sort of stuff. But you have to understand that this happens over a period of time, and it's a process. And one where it's like somebody like him can make the victim actually feel like whatever's going on is their fault. And so they come back and try to make it up to him, and he forgives them, and everything goes on well for a while, and he's back to being loving and attentive and that sort of thing. And then they do something wrong again. And this happened throughout his first marriage. I think one difference here, well, there's several differences. One, this is early on in his, I guess, criminal career or abuse of women. And not all serial killers go from, or killers of any sort, necessarily go from, just start right in killing their first victims, first people they meet. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen very often, actually. There's sort of a process or a period of time where most build toward this. They may abuse and rob and physically attack, or do all these sorts of things, but they stop short of actually killing. Maybe they don't, as we've talked about with Neal, he sort of gets backed into a corner. It's all coming apart on him. But with the first person, his first wife, she eventually found herself. He left her for a while. He wasn't getting what he wanted. And in that period of time, she found herself and gained strength so that when he came back and tried to worm his way back into her life, she rejected him. She just sent him down the road. I mean, that's not what these guys want. They don't want strong people. They don't go after And I'm not saying that women who fall victim to these guys aren't strong, but there is something that these guys are using, some vulnerability. So he was just, I'm not getting anywhere here. I've been cut out of, her parents had died and left her a substantial amount of money, which happens to be when he comes back, of course.
Yep.
But she's not giving him any of it. She stands up for herself. And that's what these guys can't handle. They can't handle being when the zebra they picked out of the herd ends up being the zebra on steroids. That same as the lion does, that lion moves on to the next weak member of the herd, or perceived weaker member of the herd. So, and that's kind of what he did. I believe he moves on to a woman who worked in a strip club after that. And this is a woman who, as you sometimes find working in this sort of business, has very low self-esteem. And so he's able to spend a lot of money on her and tell her how beautiful she is, and how he wants to just settle down with her and have a house with a white picket fence, which is all she really wants in the world. She doesn't like what she's doing. She's doing it to survive. And because she needs that sort of affirmation from men for whatever reason in the past. So once again, he's choosing somebody, that weaker zebra, to exploit, and he knows how to do it. He knows that, he didn't pick somebody who's even another one of the women working in the strip club. He didn't pick one of the ones who's comfortable in her own skin and strong and that sort of thing. He went after someone who he knew, especially after studying everything and talking to people in the strip club, that she struggled. And once again, he starts to be abusive with her, but she doesn't have any real money. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have the things that he wants other than sex and, adulation and that sort of stuff. So he, eventually he kind of moves away from her, and she starts questioning him and giving him a hard time. Where are you going? Why are you gone all the time? This sort of stuff. So he goes, and he doesn't kill her either. For one thing, I think he's still trying to keep himself from whatever thoughts he's starting to have from getting caught any of this stuff. But that's about when he starts, finding women he can manipulate, get what he wants from physically, as well as getting money out of them and all these sorts of things.
And she's the one that has his child too. They end up having a daughter, right? And whether that's, a part of why he doesn't eventually get to her, but I don't question or wonder too much about, okay, why didn't he kill these women? I think it's something that built up in him. I think he probably always had the ability to do whatever he wanted to do, and not feel any real empathy, because that's just the mark of a sociopath, is that they have no empathy for their victims. But they are smart, and he may know, okay, I'll just leave her. I got something out of her. I need something more. I'll go on to the next person. I'll leave her, and I have no compunctions or feel guilty about that. But he's not at the stage yet where he's feeling trapped enough or worried about being caught that he's willing to take it to the next step. Okay. The one thing I find interesting is that he does center a lot of the con around that second wife, and the daughter. He really does use the daughter as a fulcrum to set up these women down the line to get money.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the basis of getting these tens of thousands of dollars is to say, I'm trying to get my daughter back from this evil stripper wife, ex-wife I used to have. And that really plays on the heartstrings of a few of the victims.
Well, of course, women are nurturing and they don't want to think of, and here's this wonderful, thoughtful man they only know as being compassionate, and he's a little knight in shining armor when it comes to their own past abusive boyfriends or whatever. All they know about him is he's this sweet, giving, caring man who made a mistake and married an evil stripper. And he wants his daughter. I mean, what woman doesn't go for that? I mean, it's the same thing as, the guy who gets puppies and walks in the park so he can attract women to, it's just that, it's that sort of knowing who you're going after and putting it out there. So, of course, and he picks women who have those sorts of hearts. I mean, he didn't pick somebody at the bar who's, oh, I hate kids. Why would you even want a kid? That's not the sort of person he's going to go after. And so he just, to him, he just had a new play he could do. He's a grifter. He's got stories, and some stories work better than others, and that one worked great.
The story, if he's not using the daughter from the second wife, he's using a story that seems to get over with some of these women, and that is that he's either a former hitman for the mob or that he's a bounty hunter, one or the other. And
right, Owen worked for the CIA, and a bunch of other things. It's that, and the women he chose as his victims at the end, obviously it came from either broken marriages or abusive or, losses like that, or bad boyfriends, and sort of mundane everyday lives where their big excitement is going to that neighborhood bar, where all the other bar flies are hanging out and trying to find some solace and and here comes this man who dresses in a long cowboy coat and a cowboy hat and talks the big game, and he lets them know that I can't tell you this, but actually I'm a hitman for the mob, but only bad guys, of course, or I work for the CIA, or all these sorts of things. And there's a little bit of excitement, a little bit of danger there, and it's like, oh my God, this guy not is the only wonderful, but he's actually got kind of a small, dark side, exciting side to him, and it's, and he's paying attention to me. Of all the people here he could be paying attention to, he's paying attention to me. Who wouldn't be, flattered or complimented, that sort of stuff. So he uses that and plays on that too, knowing that if he tells a good enough story, I mean, how many guys, lie about, oh yeah, I was in the, Afghanistan war, or, or I'm an ex-cop and I had to get out because, I was shot by a bad guy, or, they have these bar lines or whatever, or bar stories. And, it's because their own lives are probably accountants or writers and podcasters, and we have these boring lives and stuff. So, it's better to tell a story about, how you barely survived a firefight in Afghanistan. And, so we get all these people who are, stolen valor type guys. And in a way, Cody Neal is doing that same sort of thing. He's making up stories, making himself more exciting, appealing to women who have sort of boring lives. Most of them came from or had some abuse in their background and stuff. So, he's kind of the perfect man with a little bit of a edge to him.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the victims of that killing spree, that particular time frame. We're talking about the time frame of July of 1998, where let's just call it that, those few days of vengeance, those days that he set up 3 particular women to take the fall for what he thought were wrongs done to him. And really, when you look at it, the wrongs that were done to him. And again, we'll just say that it's fleshed out better in the book than what I'll be able to describe it. But these are really quite thin, Steve. He believes that these women, these are just delusional fantasies of his, that they did something wrong to him, like they couldn't keep a secret.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're a controlling person like this, and then somebody breaks away from your control, that's a trigger. We see it with controlling men who abuse their wives, or whatever else, is that they're very controlling, and the wife stands up for herself and she gets slapped across the face. This is controlling people can't stand to lose control.
Yeah.
And he was, and he's trying to control 3 or 4 different women at the same time, along with his, the ex-wife with the child and things. So he's juggling a lot of balls, and he's stolen a lot of money, and, he's, and it's starting to unravel. He hears that 2 of them are talking with each other. He figures they're going to say, well, yeah, he borrowed money from me and said he was doing this. Oh, well, he borrowed, I didn't. And then, he's what? He's your lover? Well, he's, his stuff. And so he's afraid, that one in particular, but I think basically all of them is going to go to the police eventually.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the whole gig is up because they'll find all of his victims, the ones he's stolen from. And then he's looking at prison, and his whole lifestyle of being the big man at the bar and seducing women and all that sort of stuff. He's instead wearing an orange jumpsuit and, 3 hots and a cot.
Exactly. One of the sadder victims in this story is Rebecca Holberton, who, when you read about her, she seemed like she lived a very solitary life. She worked for U.S. West for the phone company.
Right.
She really, it seemed like, had given up on men, for lack of a better term. She had worked very hard for U.S. West her entire lifetime. Really put her nose to the grindstone, had put away what looked like was a nice retirement, had a nice nest egg saved up, was going to enjoy the rest of her life, was hanging out with her friends. She might have been a lonely woman, but, at least she was well set up and had taken care of herself.
Right.
And was the perfect person for Cody to pick on.
Sure. Yeah, she had what he wanted, money and all these sorts of things. She was something of a loan. She, like many people who have done all the right things as far as setting up their retirement and having a secure lifestyle and are stable and stuff, but you're missing that one thing. You're missing that person who makes it all worthwhile. You've saved up money so you can go on vacation to Hawaii, but you have no one to go with.
Yeah.
You have a home, but you get up in the morning and you make your coffee and there's no other sounds in the house. There's no one to, say good morning to. There's, that desire for human companionship. And here's some guy who is, he's become a lover, and he's become, and he's exciting, and he's attentive, and he's, and suddenly the world is perfect now. You've done all the right things. You worked hard your whole life. You put it away. You're ready. You're set. And now Mr. Perfect walks into your life. I mean, would any of us reject that?
I don't think so. But the sad thing about Rebecca and Cody's relationship is it falls apart so quickly. I mean, after a couple of months, really, he didn't maintain the romantic facade for that long, did he? I mean, it was maybe just months.
Well, and and he has these other two going on. I mean, there's only so much even William Neal can spread around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's part of what happens here is he gets, not only is he juggling all these balls in the air, and and he's got to keep the lies straight and the story straight, and who did I tell what? I think he's running out of steam. He's spread too thin. The lies are catching up with him. He's probably, some, you see it some in the book, but I'm sure there was more of, saying something and them saying, well, no, wait, that's not the story, and that sort of stuff. And now he's getting caught, and, I think he gets what he can out of his victims, Rebecca in this case. And here's Angela Fight, who's younger and pretty, and so I think his interest level also shifts, to what he considers the better one, not just a better victim, but he's got something in himself where he needs to have a lot of women adoring him too. So here's, I'm going to switch from Rebecca, who's getting toward retirement age, to Angela, who I believe was in her 30s, maybe early 40s. I'm forgetting now. But, it's just, I think he just said, okay, out with Rebecca. And he probably maybe even expected Rebecca to just sort of fade into the woodwork. He'd tell her a bunch of stories until she'd go away. But and so maybe originally he doesn't even think he's going to have to kill her. So
he really took Rebecca for a financial ride, though. I mean, he got her for, what was it? Initially, was it something to the tune of $60,000 or more?
Yeah, it's very close. I think it might have been a little more, but yeah. So it's quite a bit. She was the one who he had the most, his hooks most into. I think she probably had the most cash.
Yeah, and I think when he was sitting down with police after he had been captured, he said something to the effect of, when she sat down, the coming summer, after the summer was over, if she would have sat down and really started to figure out, come tax time, she would have figured out that she was going to be about $100,000 in debt after he had taken her for a ride.
Right. Yeah. He had wrecked her. Yeah. Even if she had survived, he hadn't killed her, he'd wrecked her financially. All that hard work she'd done all of her life and stuff she's going to end up having to work at Walmart. Yeah. Or something like that. Yeah.
And she would have been absolutely devastated. And he felt like he had, and I'm just paraphrasing here, that he had done her a favor.
Well, right. Well, that's always there's justification, and it is, they're either coming after me, it's the kitty that bit him, and so he had to kill it, or the poor thing needed to be put out of its misery, and so I better kill it. And it's like, she's just going to be, I'm not going to leave poor Rebecca out here, with no money and having lost me and all these sorts of things. So yeah, probably better that she's dead.
Yeah, which was just, it was the most twisted outlook, I think, of most anything in the book. That she was, at least when he first found her, sure, she might have been lonely, but she might have found somebody who loved her for her, Well,
I think that's, and, if there's a moral to this story for anyone who's looking, is to, be careful and, spend your time, love at first sight and falling madly in love instantaneously is nice and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but, keep your eyes open, keep your, just, it doesn't sound very romantic for some of this and stuff, but, especially when you get up there for a while, there's reasons why, some guy like Cody Neal seems to have multiple wives and kids and is kind of living this life he lives. And, it's always easy. And I always hear this after books like this, that, people blaming the victims, of how could she have been so gullible? What was wrong with her and stuff. And, nothing more wrong with her than is wrong with all the rest of us at some point in our lives when we're lonely or we have one more thing that would make our lives perfect.
Yeah.
But, just these guys are out there. I'm not, I think sometimes we overblow that, there's a serial killer around every corner. And there's not. It's a big, beautiful, wonderful world. But it pays to be, to pay attention and to exercise some caution. If it's love, if it's true, it will be just as strong if you, check the boxes and maintain your own strength and don't give your power, much less your money, to somebody else.
True. Very true. Was it Candace Walters who had the daughter Holly, who he got with her and was going to surprise her with, or am I thinking of the wrong person?
You're going to catch me a little bit here. As I said, I originally wrote this back in 98, and I obviously reviewed it and revised it for. I think and updated it for the current book. I think you're right there.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yeah, it was Candace Walters who It was her who started to snoop around because she didn't quite believe everything that he was telling her.
Right.
And she had actually given him the least amount of money. I think it was only like around $6,000. And he kept telling her that this, his horse was going to come in, that there was this trust that he was going to get.
Right.
And again,
right. You're right on that. It's Candace, but yeah.
Yeah. And so at one point, her daughter, Holly, her adult daughter, Holly, was in the mortgage industry and had given him a job that he kind of flunked out at.
Right.
And so the whole idea was, well, my trust is finally in. And this is as he's planning out getting rid of these women to wipe the slate clean. And says he's going to take her to Las Vegas, where he's going to get her own house, which this is where the logic kind of falls apart for me, Steve.
Right.
He's going to have his own mansion. He's going to set her up with her own mansion, tells her to sell her clothes and her car because she's going to get a whole new wardrobe. She's going to get a whole new car. So she's not going to need either of those. So go sell your car, get rid of your clothes, get rid of all your earthly possessions. You're not going to need them. I'm going to buy you a whole new deal. And I'm going to put, $2.5 million in your bank account. So he even went through the rigmarole of finding out with her bank what it would take to transfer a huge amount of money into the bank account. So at this point, he's got her absolutely snowed and she's ready to go forth and go to Las Vegas. Holly, although is extremely skeptical, has a trip of her own that she's planning with her partner to go to Missouri. Trusts that everything is going to be okay. She ends up going on the trip to Missouri, but some accident happens while she's there. She ends up coming home. After not being contacted by her mom for a couple of days, which is unusual, she ends up calling his phone and he answers, only to get, we were in a small accident with a deer. Your mom is fine. But she's a little injured, but I'll have her call you. Never gets the call. So she ends up coming back home. What's interesting is Candace did find out that the jig was up, that he isn't who he says he is.
Right.
So Cody basically says, I need to get back at her because she didn't trust me.
Right.
She didn't trust me.
Starts talking to the others. She's the one he's most afraid of going to the police. He just, he might have seen her as a weak member of the herd, but she's a little stronger than, he realized, for one thing. And she's sort of setting the ball in motion towards what ends up happening. But, I think with her, he's telling her all this stuff about Las Vegas. He's going to take her to Las Vegas. I mean, she's probably like, yeah, right. But, well, let's see how this plays out. Maybe I'll get my 6,000 back, and I get a trip to Las Vegas out of it, and that sort of stuff. And, see, and even let's see where this Joker goes. Who knows where she was how she was really feeling about him at that time, if she was completely or mostly over him, and just trying to see what would happen next. I mean, who at that juncture, you think you've been flim-flammed maybe by this guy and you want to get your money back and cut ties, but who thinks you're, about to be murdered for it?
Right.
Right. It's easy to look back at all these things going, oh my God, didn't she know he was going to kill her? And it's like, well, no, she didn't. It's like none of these people were stupid. They were maybe a little gullible, but even that's probably being harsh. They were conned. They were conned by an ultimate con man. That a guy who was a pro at it.
Exactly. You had mentioned Angela Fight before, and she was the third one to be murdered. She was also a victim of trust, what he saw as trust. Can you tell us what it was that he didn't trust about her? Well,
he also had his jealousies and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And she had an abusive boyfriend, husband, partner sort of person. And but she wasn't completely free of him. And, I think all of them were starting to give off, even, Rebecca were starting to give off vibes of, not trusting him. And they're all doing things he didn't like. They were checking on him. They were starting to talk. They were asking him questions. They were, comparing news stories to old stories. They were still not completely disconnected from old boyfriends, and and some of their friends were starting to ask questions and that sort of stuff. So, that's then we get to that point.
Yeah, and I guess we can leave this for people to read in the book, but there's a point in here where Cody sets up Rebecca, he sets up Candace, and he sets up Angela, to all three of them to be killed because he's going to submit them to surprises.
Right.
And Steve, these are three of the most grisly murders I've ever read in my life.
Yeah.
These are not humanitarian murders.
Well, no, I'm not sure how many murders are humanitarian, but you're right. This is brutal, beyond the normal, and just sort of heinous, just because of the, how they're set up and how, innocent everything is up until the moment, and just even the lies and the machinations and the evil that he does to set this all up. It's incomprehensible to normal people, mm-hmm. How you do something like that. I think we will leave some of this for the book. I mean, it's just. And the things he would say is almost like he was a very macabre comedian, pulling one-liners, and just doing weirder and weirder and weirder things.
Yeah.
That, as you know, there's the fourth victim who's chained to the ground and all that sort of thing. And
yeah.
So I think he. Once again, we come back to the criminally insane and the personality disorder. I think he's slipping farther and farther into the madness that is the personality disorder. And there is a type of madness in there. We all have to admit that's crazy. In our normal lives. But once again, he knows that what he's doing. He knows why he's doing it, whether he's got several different reasons or whatever. He knows he could have stopped himself. He knows he could have stopped himself after the first victim. He could have, anywhere along this point, he knows he could have and should probably stop this, but he doesn't.
Now, Steve, we'll add one note to this, and that is after he completes his murder spree, there are two other women that we haven't mentioned that he parties with after he's committed this. Well, I shouldn't say after he's committed this murder spree, while he's committing this murderous spree.
Right.
Which is just completely psychotic. I don't know how you celebrate that, but you do. But he takes one of those women and involves her in it in a way and rapes her during it. We can say that much.
Right.
Yeah. But then he also sows the own seeds of his downfall. So in other words, it's almost like, okay, I did the deed. I know I'm guilty, and I just want it. There's like a little piece of him that goes, okay, I'm tired. I'm getting older. I don't know that I want this to continue. I'm done. This was just me clearing the decks.
Well, I think there's a lot to that. Serial killers, the way we think of them, they just keep going on and on until they get caught. And with somebody like a Bundy, that's probably true. He just, he just centers around hurting and raping and murdering young women. And he will do this until, I think Bundy ran out of steam too and started making mistakes and eventually got caught and that sort of thing. But there are other killers, and Cody is a serial killer in that he, a lot of times we think serial killers, it's, they kill somebody, then they wait, 2 weeks or a year or something like that. That's not always true. A serial killer can kill somebody and 2 days later kill another person. It's the method, the repetition of how they do things, and so it can be combined in a very short amount of time with a number of victims. But there are some serial killers that I'm going to kill everybody who had something to do with this, and then I really have no other reason or desire to kill anybody else. We don't know entirely about Neal. There's a long part of his history and missing blanks that, there could very well be other victims somewhere. And there are a number of people who investigated Neal and these crimes who still believe that, somewhere in some of these missing periods of times, he may have killed somebody. And that sort of thing, probably in the same sort of circumstances where he felt he was being betrayed or going to get caught or something like that. But I think in this case, he decided that he did what he needed to do. I think we see some things like the selling the clothes and selling the car. In some ways, if you just want to have it look like somebody decided to leave, they just got tired of life and just decided to go away. So they sold their car, sold their clothes, and disappeared. We have no idea where they are. Maybe at that point he was still planning on taking the bodies somewhere and disposing them so that he wouldn't get caught and that sort of thing. But it takes a lot to kill 3 people and get rid of 3 bodies, and especially in the middle of a neighborhood. Yeah. So these guys are very clever to a point, but sometimes they don't really think through everything.
Yeah.
And so they end up, making a mistake somewhere that gets caught, or running out of steam, or finally saying, I'm done, and now what?
Yep. There's such conundrums that flow throughout the book. At one point, and I'm going to ask you this question in just a moment here, and you kind of alluded to what your answer is going to be, but at one point, there are things that are so premeditated, like sell all your belongings, that just scream, he's done this before. He's done this many times before, that he's so practiced at this that there have to be just a trail of bodies other than the 3 or 4 that he's left behind, that are documented, that he's been charged with. And then there are such glaring examples in the book that tell you, maybe he's not so experienced at killing human beings. Other things like animals, sure. But human beings, maybe this is his first go around. Maybe he's just that intelligent. Maybe he's that experienced at the con that he can foresee things that maybe some of us wouldn't. I'll ask you this just straight out. It's your own conjecture. It's your own what if game here, Steve. How many people do you think he's killed before these 4? And how long do you think he's been killing human beings?
I don't really know. I'm being straightforward and honest with that. I don't know. I've interviewed, I don't know, more than a dozen serial killers, and I've written about, a couple of dozen and that sort of thing. And they're all different. There's all similarities, obviously, but they're all different. And he very well could have, and like I said, there's some real empty places in there where there's no record of him anywhere. But you get somebody who's has decided he's going to kill some people, and needs to kill them and stuff. And he's smart and he's clever and he's used to. So he starts trying to think his way through the perfect crime. How do you carry out the perfect crime? And so, I read something where this person, had sold off everything she had and disappeared. And the killer, told the police that she'd gotten, the last he heard, she went off to Mexico and just wanted to be done with, modern life. So she's living somewhere in a jungle in the Amazon, so, there's so much out there, there's a lot of true crime writing out there. There's podcasts and books and newspaper articles and a lot of how to do it sort of things.
Sure.
So people like this, I think, garner things like that, or have heard things like that. But where that falls apart is, I have another book I'll finish one of these days, and it was this guy, he had it planned really well, and all that sort of stuff. But then he started asking questions that he had not thought of himself, and now all of a sudden the lies start happening. So I think Neal tried to, if he hasn't done this lots of times before, and it would seem to me, and a lot of things say he didn't, because, he's got to deal with 3 bodies in the middle of a neighborhood. Who does that and expects to get away with it? Right. Especially if has been getting away with it for 20 years, he's probably learned how to kill somebody and dispose of the body in a way that doesn't endanger his own safety or not being caught. So there's a lot of things that scream that no, he was clever, but he didn't think through everything. Okay. If he wanted to get away with this. And then there's the did he ever think he was really going to get away with it? Who knows? Maybe he thought he was going to get to be crazy. He's going to get criminally insane and get sent to a nice little psychiatric hospital and all these sorts of things. So I think some of the stories he made up were to make himself look like that. But it's another person who doesn't understand the difference between criminally insane and doing something crazy, but, you're criminally liable.
Right. As we're starting to wrap up here, I have to ask you this question because I get that he's sociopathic. I get that from the profile in the book. You just can tell that he overplays the sense of the love for his mother. He really does overplay, I think, the sense of his love for Angela Fight. But I want to ask you this. Do you really believe that he loved Angela Fight as much as he says he did with the...
Oh, he had himself convinced he probably did. But I think Cody Cody, I call him that because that's how he refers to himself. But I think Neal, like to believe he was in love with, some of these women. Maybe I don't know about Rebecca and Candace and stuff. I think they were victims from the get-go, but
yeah,
Angela, because she's younger, and the woman who had worked at the strip club, his first wife was outdoorsy attractive, and I think he tries to think that he's in love, but to love to Neal is that they obey. They do what he asks them to do. They worship him. They give him money. They, basically they just are, like having a nice puppy,
mm-hmm.
So they're great until that puppy pees on the ground or whatever. So,
mm-hmm.
I think that, I think he may have thought he loved Angela, just like he may have thought he loved anybody else. But that would have passed too. As soon as Angela started catching on to his stories and stuff, she was, smart and getting out of a bad relationship, which had left her vulnerable. But I think that, eventually she sees through him and drops him like a hot potato.
Last question when it comes to Neal. Do you feel like he felt like there was nobody in this world who had ever betrayed him?
Had been what?
That had ever betrayed him. It seems like and I'll tell you why I asked this question. There's towards the end of the book, one of the women that he let go, the woman that he had raped during the murders, eventually takes the stand against him. And again, I'm not going to give up too much at the end of the book, but she relays everything that happened to her the way it happened. And one of the things that happens towards the end of the book is Neal starts to spin the story the way he wants to spin the story, where he looks better than what actually happened.
Right.
She relays exactly what happened according to the way it happened and the way the evidence is laid forward, and shows the entire courtroom, including the 3 judges that are sitting on the panel, exactly what happened that night that she was raped, and painted the scene brilliantly. And I think it suddenly appeared to Cody what he was. And I think in that moment, he had painted her as being innocent and almost fell in love with the fact that she was innocent.
Right.
I think I'm accurately portraying it when I say he was falling in love with her because he put her on a pedestal. That was the last woman he put on a pedestal because she was innocent and hadn't betrayed him. And at that moment, she betrayed him. And I'm using air quotes. People can't see us because it's an audio podcast. But she betrayed him. Do you think that Neal, at that point, Cody, thought there's no one in the world who hasn't betrayed me?
No, I think he felt betrayal. Well, everybody had betrayed him. Maybe not his mom, but I think he felt that everybody, either betrayed him or would betray him. eventually. I'm sure even when she's on the stand, he's thinking like, well, I didn't kill you. And, we had sex and these sorts of things. I'm thinking he's, I actually think he's probably thinking she is betraying me. I did let her go eventually and all these sorts of things. I was actually kind to her. Now she's saying these things to me. I think she's just, he ran out of steam or she'd be dead too. He'd killed what he had decided he needed to kill. And he also wanted to rape this young woman. And so he tossed that in. It was just like sort of an add-on. Yep. But I don't think that was the main purpose of any of this. But, in a way, he wanted a witness to what he did there at the end and that sort of thing. So, no, William Cody Neal was just an evil guy. Yeah. I'm always asked, is there real evil in the world, or are these guys just, sick one way or the other or something? And that's a question sometimes, because there are different kinds of murderers and that sort of thing. But Cody Neal is one I can unequivocally say that I believe there's evil in the world. And it was with him. I was telling you that small story we had.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So after I finished the series, I actually wrote part of this book as a series of magazine stories and then the book. And Neal had promised he wanted to do further interviews once the book came out and that sort of thing. And then he was going to tell me more and better stuff. So maybe some of those stories we don't know were going to be in that. I think he just wanted, he did. He wanted me to put money in his commissary. He wanted me to make get a bunch of paperwork copied and sent to him for his, his legal arguments and things like that, which I never did. And he read the book and wrote me a letter saying, it's a good thing that he had found Jesus in prison, because he knew he'd been forgiven and he would be sitting at the right hand of God and blah, 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 and everything would be forgiven and good. And meanwhile, I'd be going to hell because I was the devil's typesetter and, and all these sorts of things. And that I had lied and made him look bad. I'm not sure how you make a triple axe murderer look bad, but and I usually don't respond to these things, but this time I wrote him a letter back and I said, I don't know what the prison preachers are telling you about forgiveness and this sort of stuff. And I said, God forgives, but he doesn't forget. And where you're going is cold and dark and lonely, and it's forever, go to hell.
Amen.
And sent that to him. He did not like that. He took that to the warden of the prison, said I was threatening him and all that sort of stuff. But basically, the DA in Jefferson County, they all heard about it and were applauding one day when I walked in and some other things. So I think a lot of us felt the same way, is that Cody Neal, he may be forgiven in whatever weird interpretation of the Bible that is, but what he did won't be forgotten.
Amen. Way to go, Steve. Way to go. And you're right. I think he thinks that's an automatic pass to the pearly gates, and he's going to be singing and
sorely disappointed.
Up. Yeah, he's in for a shock. I think when he passes on. Yeah, you just don't get an automatic pass for doing something that cruel. You just don't.
Yeah.
Steve Jackson, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And again, folks, the book is Love Me to Death. Steve Jackson's been our guest. He is a New York Times bestseller, best-selling author. And again, pick up the book. It is Love Me to Death, the chilling true story of Wild Bill Cody Neal, the vicious Denver lady killer. It's available on Wild Blue Press. We'll have a link to it in the description of this program. Steve, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. It was very interesting program. Great questions, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Steve. Folks, it's time now to lighten it up just a bit. We're going to go to Beer City Bruiser, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time you've all been waiting for. The time at the end of True Crime Tuesday where we can sit back, maybe have a laugh or two this week. I don't know. It's a strange beginning to 2023, and we can go over dumb crimes, stupid criminals. And to do that, we need ourselves a co-host. So we're going to reach out and grab the best in the biz, the BCB, the big cuddly bear himself. Welcome to 2023, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Cruiser, and it's been a fantastic 2023 so far. I'm enjoying it. It's been pretty good.
Good. Yeah, mine's been odd, but yeah, it's the future is pretty good so so
I've been trying to make mine productive, and it has been. So I've been very happy with that.
Good. Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's this futuristic 2023 is it's different, but it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, doesn't it?
I wonder as I look at people's memes on or the memes as people call them online. A lot of people were like, "Oh, 2022 is so horrible." I didn't have a horrible year.
I didn't have a horrible year. I mean, I lost my job, with Ring of Honor, but I started this with you. Came on board with you and bought a house and got Ziggy Star Pup, who is the most amazing thing in my life besides my beautiful young bride and my kids. So I think I had a good 2022. Yeah. Minus the one major factor, but
yeah, 2020.
As my mom said, I grabbed myself by the bootstraps and pulled myself up. So
that's right. It was a year of rebound. 2022. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Year rebound, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least for
it wasn't a dumpster fire like 2021.
No. Oh God. 2021 was horrible.
Yeah. And 2023 looks like it's gonna be good so far. Yeah. So far it's been good.
Yeah. So far it's looking up. That's for sure.
Although Miss Ziggy Star Pup's getting into that phase of puppydom where she's in those terrible twos where she wants to test everything.
Ooh.
Yeah. So a lot of discipline going on. I hate disciplining her, but you gotta.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta.
And she's just doing what puppies do. She thinks because she's a celebrity now with Ziggy's pick, she can get away with stuff. And I gotta.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I gotta set her straight. Go look, celebrity out there, puppy in here.
That's right. Yep, that's right. Swami on the streets, puppy in the sheets. I don't know. That sounds weirder than I meant it to, but yeah, I don't know.
Yes, dog.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll have more on Ziggy's picks tomorrow because yes, turns out it was a weird, odd week in the NFL. We'll talk about that tomorrow. A very odd week in the NFL.
This whole weekend was just weird. It didn't feel like a holiday to me. No. I don't know about you.
Well, no, it didn't. It felt kind of out of body the entire weekend.
Yeah. Mrs. Bruiser said that yesterday. In fact, she was like, "I don't know what's wrong. I just feel like I'm out of body."
Yeah.
So I made a quantum leap joke, and she obviously has never seen this quantum leap, so she looked at me like I farted in church.
Yeah. Really? She's never seen Quantum Leap?
No, not the originals. I started getting her interested in the remake just because I was curious about it, to see how it was.
Yeah. And
she had a lot of questions.
Oh, so boy.
Most of the time watching was me pausing and explaining to her, So,
well, yeah.
What I said, and I'm sure you'll respect this, is I said, does it feel like the quantum leap guy just leaped into your body? Because if then you're out of body. Yeah. I giggled.
Well, yeah, I'm giggling too. It's kind of funny.
It's a great joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
She didn't get it. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
I digress.
No. It's a good joke. It's just, I get what you're saying there. I'm picking up what you're putting down there, buddy. Yeah. Just
I just need a button to
you need
have
one,
you on speed dial. So when I tell an outdated joke,
I can
hit you up and you.
Yeah, I do one of these. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I just need one of those in my life. I need that soundbar button in my whole life.
Just one of these. There you go. Oh well, yeah.
I'm sure the holiday brought some fun, stupid criminals, huh?
It did. And you know what? They tie right into the holiday itself. You're right. Let's start off right in Times Square, which was the center of it all. All I got to say is poor Andy and Andy over there on CNN. I don't know if you watched any of the CNN coverage. Out of pure curiosity, had to see how two normally drunken hosts who have a great time being drunk handled having to be sober by corporate edict this year.
I don't get forcing hosts of a New Year's show to be sober.
Well, they got a little out of control last year.
Okay.
There were some obscenities dropped, and there was some behavior that was a little out there, and so the new corporate masters over at CNN said enough is enough, and it's time for a change, and so they took the alcohol away from Andy and Andy. And poor boys, this feels odd. That was most of the show, but they had some great guests. I kind of I flipped around to different specials. You always got to drop in on what used to be Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve, which is now Ryan Seacrest's Look at Me, I'm Trying to Be a Young Boy.
I agree, but after the statement he released where he said nobody should be drinking on New Year's, that kind of took me out of it. Like, come on, Ryan Seacrest. If you don't want to drink, that's fine. But other people, that's how they want to celebrate their, a glass of champagne at midnight is a historical celebration.
Well, he meant as far as TV hosts. Nobody should be drinking.
Oh, I took it the wrong way. I thought he meant everybody. No. And I was like, Ryan Seacrest, you can't tell me what to do.
No, he meant as far as TV hosts. Nobody should be drinking. Which that is the, inside baseball here. That's the traditional broadcasting way. You were never to imbibe before you did an air shift. In fact, everything was rigged. Wasn't
Walter Cronkite pretty much three sheets to the wind most of his guests?
No. There were a few. What's the nice way of putting this? There were a few newscasters that might have had a 3-martini lunch, but by the time they hit the air at night, they were fine.
Did you ever read Pat Sajak's book? And he talks about how in the early days of Wheel of Fortune, there was an Applebee's next to the studio. So him and Vanna would go and indulge on the $1 Long Island iced teas before they recorded.
No, I never did. But see, they're not journalists per se.
That's true. Yes, they're just hosts. They're not journalists.
Right. Now, journalists are known for having quite a few afterwards. They're famous for going to the bar afterwards and tipping them until they can't remember what the headline was that night. But yeah, never on duty.
Okay.
So, so to have the liquor flowing during New Year's Eve is not a big deal. In fact, I thought it was kind of refreshing that, they were letting their hair down and they were having a good time on camera.
Yeah.
Because, for years and years, it was, Dick Clark was very buttoned up and Dick Clark was not a journalist. This is the thing.
He was a robot.
Well, okay. Not completely, because at the end there, he had his strokes and everything. I mean, and he was human.
End, he was a weekend at Bernie's.
Hey,
at the end, he was a weekend at Bernie's. It was, hey, we have to get Dick on camera somehow.
Oh no!
Well, I love him. Trust me, it's not New Year's unless you watch Dick Clark. In my eyes, that's it was growing up. That's the way it was before I was born. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then Ryan Seacrest took over, and it's like,
Well, they were having a hard time getting Dick's audience to accept Ryan, so they kind of did the crossover, which was very painful.
Yes, that's the Weekend at Bernie's section.
Yeah, they would
We're
say
getting Dick on camera no matter what.
Right. Ryan would come on in his brash bravado, and he would do most of the show, and they'd bring Dick on, and he probably shouldn't have been on camera.
Right.
Yeah, but they forced him to anyways, and yeah, it was.
They
bad.
didn't force him; they just programmed him to.
Oh no! Don't say that. But and it was awkward. It was horrible. But they did what they did so that they could get the show moving and give him the rub. You know that term.
Yep.
So that everybody would love Ryan in the end, and they could continue the franchise and continue to make money off of Dick Clark's disease carcass. Anyway, so
it is still called Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve, isn't it?
I believe it is.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be that forever.
Or is it? Wasn't it Ryan Seacrest's Rockin' New Year's Eve this year?
I don't know. Like I said, when I mistook what Ryan said, so I'm like, I'm not going to watch a guy that doesn't allow people to drink.
It didn't come up as either on my guide on DirecTV. It came up as part 1 and part 2.
Welcome to part 1 of New Year's.
I don't think they wanted to name it anything this year. They were like, we don't want anybody to have this thing. So I dialed around to that. I dialed over to Fox News to see what they were doing. I didn't know anybody on that show other than the performers. I couldn't tell you who any of those people were. But it looked like they were enjoying drinks.
Well, there you go. They're having a good time.
They had drinks in their hand. I don't know why the CNN people couldn't have drinks in their hand, but the Fox News people did. In fact, there was one correspondent who was behind a bar at the time I was watching, and she was downing some drink. I don't know what she was drinking, but she was drinking something. They were giving the recipe on air. Okay. And then where else did I dial around to? I dialed around to a couple different shows just to see what people were doing, and see what entertainment was on. All while this is going on, Bruiser, all while the nice, pretty facade of New Year's Eve is being painted for us, did you hear anything about a machete attack in Times Square?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I took the long way around on this story just to tell you about the machete attack on Times Square.
Well, that's not good. Not during New Year's. Everybody's there.
Now, there's plenty of news organizations in Times Square at the time, but nobody said, hey, we're being attacked by a guy with a machete. And it could be a possible terror act.
So there was no shot of Ryan Seacrest talking in front of the crowd, and there's a guy in the background just running around with a machete, chopping people up?
No, not yelling, this one's for Dick Clark. No, nothing like that. Or Dick would have done this himself if he could have. No, nothing like that. No, nothing. Law enforcement officials said they were looking into whether the man who had allegedly attacked, and it was officers, by the way, he was trying to attack officers with the machete.
Well, that's not good.
No, but they were
the wrong people you want to attack because they're armed.
They are, yes. But they were probably keeping him from Ryan Seacrest. So they were looking into whether the man who had allegedly attacked the officers had previously posted what they called jihadist writings online and traveled to New York City to target police. Police working New Year's Eve detail in Times Square were wounded by a machete-wielding man who struck multiple officers in the head.
Ooh.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Here's a gaping wound.
Yeah. In what law enforcement are investigating as possible targeted attack, federal and local authorities were digging into the background of 19-year-old Trevor Bickford, who had allegedly attacked a group of NYPD officers outside a security screening zone in Times Square just after 10 p.m. on Saturday. That, according to multiple law enforcement sources. Bickford is from Wells, Maine. Wells, Maine, a hotbed.
Wells, Maine.
Yeah, a hotbed of jihadist activity.
I guess so.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if you're going to be a terrorist cell, you're going to hide in a place no one would look for you, and no one's going to look for you in Wells, Maine.
Right. Trevor, Buffy, let's grab the picnic basket and go on down to Times Square, and
I think we're gonna have some champagne, some lobster, and some jihadist readings.
Yes, let's grab the machete as well. Bickford of Wells, Maine, allegedly approached the officers on Manhattan's 8th Avenue between 51st and 52nd Street, armed with a large knife he used to swing at 3 different officers. NYPD Commissioner, I believe this is Keechant Sewell, said in an overnight press conference. Sewell said the man dealt 2 of the officers blows to the head, giving an 8-year veteran a head laceration and a recent police academy graduate a skull fracture.
Oh,
yikes.
Ouch.
All 3 NYPD members were taken to Bellevue Hospital and were expected to survive, thank God.
Well, that's good.
At least one officer fired upon the suspect, striking him in the shoulder. Police sources said the alleged attacker's injuries are also non-life-threatening. A preliminary review shows the man has no previous arrest, but he was known to federal and local law enforcement because of previous online postings. Huh.
Eesh.
So he's been out there before.
Yeah, this isn't his first time. And it's not going to be his last time either. They got to punish him.
Yeah. Law enforcement officials said they are looking into whether the man who allegedly attacked the officers had previously posted what they called jihadist writings online and traveled to New York City to target police. They said the New York FBI field office and their Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating. They said, we believe this was a sole individual at this time. There's nothing to suggest otherwise. Mike Driscoll was quoted as saying that. He's the assistant director in charge of the New York FBI field office. The knife attack and gunfire startled a long line of crowds waiting to join the New Year's Eve. It's abbreviated. I tried to go rogue on the deal. I should have just said the NYE celebrations. A local pizza shop employee said panicked revelers fled amid the chaos. Police had closed down the immediate area for their investigation. The nearby New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square was not impacted. So, Bruiser, machete attacks on New Year's Eve.
Not good. Not good. And it sounds like he's a young, impressionable young man. He's only 19. He's getting the wrong impression.
That he is.
Which I don't get how he's getting it in Wells, Maine.
Yeah. How do you get touched up in Maine to want to commit crimes down in the city?
And how could you be so jaded at New York police when you live in Wells, Maine?
Yeah. I mean, life's probably pretty good up in Maine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kind of went the wrong way. He should have waited. If he wanted to make an impact, he should have waited till he got into the New Year's Eve celebration. Instead, he did it before at a checkpoint. And, well, like you said, nobody really heard about it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. A stupider crime committed on New Year's Eve. Not quite a machete to the head, but how about hitting a cop in the face with a top hat? It's a lesser form of assault, I know.
Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Minutes after ringing in 2023, an Ohio woman vacationing in Florida was arrested. Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't New York. It's Florida, of course, was arrested for striking uniformed cops squarely in the face with a plastic New Year's Eve top hat.
If you got it, flaunt it, right?
That's right. Police were at a St. Petersburg restaurant early on New Year's Day investigating a reported battery when 49-year-old Christy Etheridge, she does sound like someone who would hit somebody with a plastic New Year's Eve hat, allegedly committed a felony attack on a law enforcement officer. Cops say they were dispatched to the eatery, which was hosting a New Year's Eve party, to investigate a battery allegedly committed by Etheridge's husband, 54-year-old William Etheridge.
They're 54 and 49. Go home and go to bed. It's too late or too early for you guys to be up.
We were kind of talking about this before the show, weren't we?
Yeah, you and I were both of like, hey, we're not that. We've grown out of the going to the bar all night long and closing the bar and getting up for breakfast or just partying till breakfast. You and I covered that before off air.
Yeah.
These two are the example of it. Just go to bed. You're 49 and 50, 56, 57? Go to bed.
54. Let's not age him
54.
any more than he is. But yeah, it's one of those things where you collect your check, you pay your check, and you thank your server for helping you out tonight, and maybe you tip them a little extra because, hey, it's a holiday and they're out working on the holiday. You say thank you for helping us out tonight, and we're getting too old for this shit. Thanks for helping us out, and you leave the restaurant, right?
Yeah, and then you don't go to jail the next day.
That's right. You just peacefully leave.
Yes.
Well, as police questioned William, Christy continuously interjected herself into the conversation. Of course she did.
Of course.
Yeah. Prompting Officer Anthony Bragano to advise her to stop talking. That's probably not what the cop should have done. Yeah, because I think Christy probably had a few too many in her.
She was probably yelling at her husband, "You're telling it wrong. It didn't go that way. You're telling it wrong."
Etheridge cops charged became very upset and yelled, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Probably not what you should be yelling in front of the cops. Etheridge, seen above. I'm looking at her right now, and yes, she looks like she would slap somebody with a top hat. I'll show you here in a second here, Bruiser. Then threw a plastic New Year's Eve top hat directly at me, Bragano mentioned or reported, striking me squarely in my face just above the eyes.
Ouch.
She's got good aim. The 12:13 a.m. incident, it was 13 minutes after midnight.
13 minutes into 2023. Okay.
She couldn't hold her liquor.
Nope.
Resulted in Etheridge's bust on a felony battery rap. She was also hit with a misdemeanor charge for allegedly resisting police attempts to handcuff her. Probably thought hubby was going to get her out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, baby. I didn't mean to do it. I was doing it for you. I was doing it for you. Pay them. Pay them quickly.
Pay him off and let's go home. Etheridge's husband was arrested after he tried to intervene as his wife was being taken into custody. That's what it was. He was, come on, we can settle this, can't we? Here, let me get my checkbook out. Of course, he broke out the checkbook because he's 54. Yeah. He said, let me break out my checkbook. What will this take? How much for the policeman's ball?
Take Western Union? Come on.
I'll buy 2 tickets to the ball. You can let my wife go. Arrest affidavits indicate that both defendants showed an indication of alcohol influence. Really?
Oh, you think?
Really? Etheridge was released from the county jail Sunday morning after posting how much bond, Bruiser? How much?
$750.
Keep going.
Oh, it's felony. So we're going to go with $2,500.
You're so close. One more.
$3,000.
Not quite. $2,650 bond for Mrs. Etheridge. Her spouse, who was charged with battery and resisting police, how much bond?
He's at the $2,500.
Oh, no. Lower.
Lower, okay. So he was at the $750.
A little bit lower.
$325.
$650, sir.
$650.
$650 for Mr. Etheridge. According to online profiles, Etheridge lives in a Columbus, Ohio suburb. Of course he does. And operates a window shade company, which he probably should have been wearing one on his head.
Yeah. He probably should have partied in Ohio.
Probably. They probably have more swag there.
They're probably snowbirds, I bet.
They probably are. That's her right there.
Oh, she complains about everything.
Yes, she does. Look at that's your Karen right there.
When she sits down at your table, you're the waiter, you're like, this is not going to be an easy night.
Yep. She's the one telling you that the cocktail sauce needs to be a little colder for her shrimp.
There's too much ice in this drink. Mm-hmm. I need less ice.
Yeah. That's her. That's Christy Etheridge right there.
Yeah, she complains about everything.
That's right. More shenanigans on New Year's Eve. This time we're going to, I believe, New Zealand. We're going halfway around the world. Not the only spoiled brat who is causing trouble.
Okay.
On New Year's Eve, a billionaire's fireworks party started ablaze near Queenstown.
Well, if you got the money, why not?
It turns out he's from New York. He tried to recreate his own fireworks on New Year's Eve.
He's like, we'll get our own ball to drop. I'll pay for it.
Turns out he's the owner of the Empire State Building.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always wondered who owned that.
Well,
now we know.
You're about to find out. Yep. A New York billionaire's controversial New Year's Eve pyrotechnic bonanza at his Central Otago retreat is believed to have caused a large rural fire. Oops. Down under, nonetheless. The blaze in Dalefield between Queenstown and Arrowtown is understood to belong to Empire State Realty Trust Chief Executive and President Tony Malkin. The trust owns the Empire State Building.
Okay.
Yeah. Malkin's company got clearance from the Overseas Investment Office to buy the $4.5 million property called Redemption Song in 2008. The fireworks went off at midnight. The firefighters were called 10 minutes later. Yeah. Yeah.
G'day, mate. We're going to light this shrimp on a Barbie.
You know what? I was watching TMZ this week. That is a fallacy. They don't say that in Australia.
Really? Okay.
They don't say shrimp on a Barbie because they don't say shrimp.
Ah, okay.
They do say Barbie. Shrimp in Australia is a prawn.
Oh, so throw another prawn on the Barbie.
And they don't throw prawns on a Barbie because prawn is something else. And I don't remember what it is. Prawn. Our Australian listeners will tell us.
Well, this is New Zealand, which is not Australia.
That's right.
Like, they'll be the first to tell you that.
That's right. They'll tell you they're two separate countries.
Yes.
Yep.
Which they are.
Yep. And New Zealand they'll tell you much better. No offense, Australia. Don't write me on this one, but they'll tell you is much more scenic, and they'll tell you is a better movie shoot.
Yeah. That's where Lord of the Rings was shot.
Yep.
Some of Lost was shot there, along with Hawaii.
Yep. They'll just tell you it's much more scenic.
Yes. I want to visit both. So
yeah, I want to see both as well, too.
They are on my bucket list.
Yep. The blaze involved 3 separate fires burning in tussock on steep terrain and came within 15 meters of a house on the property.
Oops.
Yeah, that's kind
you
of
might want to back that up a little bit.
Big fire. It was contained by about 2:30 a.m. It went for a while. And,
wow.
Yeah. Well, it's
2.5 hours. Yeah. 2 hours and 20 minutes of burning.
Have you ever seen a fireworks fire burn? It burns hot.
Yeah. And you can't put it out with water. You got to use like special chemicals.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. It's like a jet fuel fire.
Yep. It burnt an estimated, was it 1.2 acres of land? Is that right? Volunteers were there until 7 a.m. Fire crews.
That guy's now listening in under come buy property in New Zealand. Fire sale going on now.
Oh, no, not the fire sale. Fire crews who had knocked out hot spots and were monitoring the situation on Sunday morning, according to a fence spokesperson. Fire and Emergency New Zealand Otago Community Risk Manager James Knapp said a fire investigator would visit the site on Sunday. Usually they just look at the case and point of origin, but I've asked him to look at it and make any observations that might lead to improvements, Knapp said. WorkSafe New Zealand granted a certificate of compliance for the pyrotechnic display, so it was authorized.
It was on the books. Okay. It was legal.
The legal and safe are often closely related, but not necessarily the same thing, he said. Property manager Donna Stewart Fremantle declined to comment on the specifics of the fire. We're deeply grateful for the expert work of Fire Emergency New Zealand and the police, she said. Angry neighbors to the Dalefield property started a petition against the legal fireworks display due to concerns of the impact it would have on horses and other animals in the area. More than 600 people signed that petition. Neighbor Daniela Schneider said she left the area with her horse at about 11:45 p.m. and returned after the fireworks to discover the fire. We waited until 2:30 a.m. and then thought it was safe to go to sleep, she said. Common sense should have meant the fire was not permitted in the rural area, she said. Hopefully it was just a one-off.
Oh, don't worry. Those houses aren't flammable.
No, not at all. A statement released a local news organization, Crux Media, before Christmas said the property owners could help cover the cost for neighbors to move animals ahead of the display. We are private people who have owned our property for nearly 20 years. That's the quote. The statement said the owners who had deep social and charitable connections in the area, we will happily consider any reasonable request for our immediate neighbors for financial assistance to move their livestock. We are sorry for any inconvenience, it said. So there you go.
Well, now you're gonna be paying for a lot more because it's burned all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let's go back to New York City. Bruiser, how quickly do you think it took to get the first homicide of 2023 chalked up?
I'm going with 5 minutes.
Well, we'll tell you here. A fight over a parking spot left a man dead in New York City's first homicide of 2023.
Oh, of course, it was over a parking spot.
That's all it took. The new year got off to a bloody start Sunday after a man was stabbed to death during a fight over a parking spot in the Bronx. Of course, it was.
That'd be really good parking.
Well, parking in the Bronx is very, very limited. It's
I know
on the
that.
street.
Yeah,
it's on the street.
But
so
willing to murder somebody over it, that'd be really, really good parking.
Oh, it had to be in front of the building. I'll tell you that much. Marking the first homicide of 2023, that according to police. The victim was identified by sources as 63-year-old Sergio Garcia. He was stabbed along with a 38-year-old woman in front of the building on College Avenue near East 170th Street in Claremont Village shortly before 4 a.m. They were involved in an altercation with an unknown group over parking, according to a law enforcement source. The guy got killed over a parking spot. The wounded pair showed up at Bronx Lebanon Hospital with Garcia pronounced dead and the woman listed in stable condition. According to cops, there were no arrests in the case. Police data shows that as of Christmas Day, there were 418 murders in the 5 boroughs during 2022, down from 481 over the same period last year. The fatal stabbing wasn't the only bloodshed of the year, the cops said. A man was stabbed in the stomach at East 21st Street and 5th Avenue in Manhattan's Flatiron District at around 2:30 a.m., police said. 2:30 a.m., Bruiser.
Jeez.
It happened quick. He was taken to Bellevue Hospital in stable condition. The suspect, who was wearing a yellow jacket and gray jeans, fled on 21st Street on foot. According to cops, there was no known motive. That's how quickly things happened after the new year.
New year, new me. I'm just going to start stabbing people.
I guess, right? Changing my attitude. I'm just bringing out the knives.
Well, I'm glad my New Year's resolution was to not get stabbed. So,
well, and so far you're holding you up your end of the bargain. I can tell you that.
I'm not going to New York. That's just all it is.
Before the new year, a bouncer was killed with one punch in New York City.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so they must have hit him right in that special spot in the back of the head. The reset button.
I guess. It happened on Christmas Eve. I don't know if we read this story or not. I saw this story and it was just so... I think we did read this story, didn't we?
I don't remember a bouncer dying.
Well, let's go over it.
From a one-punch man.
Yeah, a bouncer died after being punched into a coma by an enraged man outside a Chelsea bar on Christmas Eve, according to police.
Well, that's not very holiday-ish.
No, not at all. 61-year-old Dwayne Patterson was working at Billy Mark's West Bar on 9th Avenue near...
Why is the 61-year-old a bouncer?
See, that's well, you know why? Because it costs so much to live in New York. You have to have 3 jobs.
Well, I get that. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be working, but like, come on, man. Like...
Well, I'm going to show you a picture of this bar. It looks like a bodega. It is so small. It's like literally just right off the street, and it's the size of a cracker box.
But still, being a bouncer in New York, like you're going to have to... This guy had to be tough at 61.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah.
But, I mean, there's other things he could be doing. He could be greeting people at Walmart. He could... I don't know, collecting trash.
There are no Walmarts in the inner city, my friend, especially not around 9th Avenue near West 29th Street. You're not going to find a Walmart.
True. He can be an usher on Broadway.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Dwayne just, he's a tough guy.
I'm not trying to take away from him, but 61, there's got to be a point in time where you're like, you know what, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, it probably was coming at 70, I'm sure.
Yeah, he had a 10-year plan as a bouncer, huh?
Yep. 10-year plan just to keep Billy Marks West safe, and then he's going to, drift off into the sunset and eat deviled
just enough
eggs
to pay for that flat in Soho, and then he's done.
Yep, he's going to eat pickled eggs and drink beer the rest of his life. It's going to be his deal. So 61-year-old Dwayne Patterson was working at Billy Marks West Bar on 9th Avenue near West 29th Street when he and a man inside began brawling at around 3 a.m. on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 3 a.m. And there he is. He's out there in a brawl.
Somebody wasn't at home waiting for Santa.
I guess not. The fight spilled outside where the suspect slugged Patterson in the face, knocking him to the ground where he hit his head.
Ooh.
Yeah, a bartender.
That'll do it.
Yep, bartender found him unconscious and called 911. So that must have been the reset button he hit right there on the sidewalk.
There's that saying you're going to hear, there's going to be 2 hits, me hitting you and you hitting the ground.
Yep. Patterson of Fort George was rushed to Bellevue Hospital, where he was initially listed in critical condition with a skull fracture. He spent several days in a coma, and police confirmed on Monday that he had succumbed to his injuries.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Dwayne suffered a traumatic brain injury and was in a coma for 4 days, his daughter, Ariana Buchholz, said in a GoFundMe post. The intensive care he received was unfortunately not enough to revive his mind, she wrote. The family is in need of emotional and financial support during this devastating time. Buchholz described her dad, who was an organ donor, as such a strong, honorable person who was always quick to make us laugh. Cops are still looking to track down the suspect who fled on foot. So there you go.
That's too bad he passed away, but still 61 and bouncing. Find a different career there, bud.
Yeah,
be a bartender. He probably would have been a great bartender.
You know what's crazy? Okay, so they're describing the suspect between 40 and 50 years old, bald with a heavy build, male with a dark complexion.
Is this an old folks home bar? Like everybody's so old.
A bar for the grizzled, but they're showing him. Of course this guy's going to, here's a picture of him. Of course the guy's going to knock him out.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Yeah, that's a big kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's 20 years younger. He's going to swing on this poor guy. Yeah. He is going to knock him out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. A 61-year-old probably shouldn't be bouncing at that bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of obvious.
Go see your grandkids. It's Christmas Eve.
Right. Yeah. Let's move on. A man pulled a gun out in front of a North Carolina middle school band at a Christmas parade in Northampton County.
You don't want to do that.
No, that's probably not very Christmassy.
They love their guns here in North Carolina, but that's a little bit too much.
A little bit. The Jackson police chief said a man pulled out a shotgun in front of a middle school band as they were lining up for the Jackson Christmas parade on Saturday. Chants of "that's not a baton" could be heard from the band. No, I'm kidding. I made that part up.
All right, kids, you're following me.
I'm gonna lead you in this here parade.
We're all gonna go on this parade. I'm gonna make sure no one gets in front of you. All right. Here we go. I got some buckshot.
I got buckshot, birdshot, buckshot. At about 12:50 p.m., Police Chief John Young said a band with Conway Middle School was lining up on Peebles Street in a neighborhood in Northampton County before the parade started. Young said the students were warming up for the parade when a man came out on his porch complaining about the noise. I guarantee you they'll be gone in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. But this sounds so North Carolina. So when we moved in, our neighbor came over and she told us, she's like, she's explaining the neighborhood to us because she's like the town gossip. Mm-hmm. So she's, this person's, they're all retired. This person's this person's that. She goes, and if at lunchtime or around 4:00, if you hear gunshots, it's okay.
What?
And I says, okay. She goes, well, so-and-so over here goes out his lunch hour into the forest and he shoots his guns. And then when he's done with work, he goes out and he shoots his guns.
Okay.
What I've learned in the many months that I've lived here is you can tell what type of day he's having. Because at 1 o'clock, you can set your watch to it. 1 o'clock every day, he comes out to shoot on his lunch hour. And normally it's like little popping sounds. It's like a 22. So it's like, oh, okay, he's having a pretty good day. Oh. Well, the other day he went out there. He must have had this giant cannon because you just heard ka-toom, ka-toom. I'm like, well, he's having a bad day.
Yep, bad day for the neighbor.
So hearing this story, it doesn't shock me because everybody here owns a gun. And if you're on their lawn, they're going to come out and go, get off my lawn.
But these are school students warming up for a parade.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it's right, but.
All right. Well,
you kids are out of tune. You need to get in tune.
You kids sound like someone's stomping on a goose. The band members told
you kids know Freebird? I want you to play some Freebird.
I want to hear Skinner now. The band members told police that the man brought out a shotgun onto his porch and they were scared. That, according to the police chief, Young said none of his officers saw the man with the shotgun, but that the man was cooperative and admitted to bringing out the shotgun.
Yeah, I did it. They won't get off my lawn. They won't play me no Skinner. I told them, get off my lawn. Well, play me some Skinner. They ain't listen. So I got old Bessie. Old Bessie, she learned them.
She learned them good. He said the man also told officers that the shotgun was unloaded and that he never left the porch. Oh, well, that makes it all right.
Yeah. He's lucky one of the kids weren't holding. He pulls out that gun. They go, that ain't no gun. This is a gun.
Bang. Here's a Saturday night special. You want some Skinnerd? I got some Skinnerd for you.
Give me back my bullets. That's what I'm going to play.
Police do not know if the man pointed the gun at anyone. As of this past weekend, no charges have been filed. Young said the incident remains an ongoing investigation. He said he plans to visit Conway Middle School to talk to the band and reassure them that everything is fine. Look, there's no bullets in it.
He left the bullets on his coffee table. You're all okay.
Yep.
You just do that marching thing you do. you beat that drum. You go on the parade. You're okay.
That's right. Another sad day in another southern state. Are you ready for this?
So many guns around here.
There are.
Mrs. Bruiser was at work, and somebody asked her if we own guns, and she goes, "No, like we're looking at maybe getting a gun, but we didn't want to get it before we moved because you don't know the laws, up interstate and all that." And the guy goes, "You don't let the government tell you what to do with your guns." Mrs. Bruiser goes, "Yeah, we're in the South."
Yep. Yes, you are.
He goes, "Well, when you get your first gun, you get a shotgun." She goes, "Well, why?" He goes, "Someone steps on your property. You use that shotgun. They can't be on your property." She got home and told me this. I'm like, "Where do you work?"
Accounting firm.
Yeah, she's an accountant. These are accountants she's dealing with.
Yeah, imagine how tough it would be if it was like a security firm. Yeah. Whew.
Hey, Timmy, you want me to carry the one?
Carry the one. Carry the one has a whole new meaning in an accounting firm. Just saying.
Welcome to North Kakalaki.
Let's move over to Atlanta, shall we? Where it's at least Georgia, where it's a sad day, as a tire shop employee was killed by a customer who thought his car was being stolen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yep.
This is confusing.
The man took his car to a tire shop. Tire shop employee goes out to move his car into the garage.
And gets killed.
Thinks the tire shop employee is stealing his car and shoots him.
Whoa. You have to take my car? Hold on. What kind of tire shop you running here?
So many questions.
I know. I've learned, though, wait till you read the story before we ask these questions. But still.
We go to DeKalb County, Georgia, where one person is dead and another currently behind bars after shooting at a tire shop on this past weekend. Saturday afternoon, to be exact. DeKalb County.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. DeKalb County police responded to a person shot call at there's such a thing. That's such bad English. Responding to a person shot call at the Tires Plus. Probably not the place you want to go to bring your car for tires.
Oh, you do, but
well, no, they'll shoot you.
No, the guy bringing it in shot him.
Doesn't matter.
Not the employee. You just got to know when you're taking your car in to get it serviced that someone's going to drive your car because they need to get it in the shop.
Well,
they're not stealing it.
It says there's 2 people shot here, Bruiser. We'll keep reading.
Okay.
DeKalb County police responded to a person shot call at the Tires Plus at 577 DeKalb Industrial Way just before 1:30 p.m. Once officers arrived, they found 24-year-old Daniel Gordon suffering from gunshot wounds. Gordon was an employee of Tires Plus. According to DeKalb detectives, the suspect, identified as 30-year-old Quadarius McDowell, had taken his car to the tire shop for service. Authorities say at some point, Gordon started to drive McDowell's car in the business parking lot. McDowell reportedly thought Gordon was trying to steal his car and fired multiple shots, shooting the victim. He then ran away on foot. Oh, God. But officers were able to find him and arrest him. This just sounds like a skit on Reno 911.
I was going to say, why didn't he get in his car? Hey, that guy's stealing my car. Black. Okay, he's dead. I'm going to get in my car and leave. No, it's that guy's stealing my car. Blocka. Now I'm going to walk away slowly.
The man walked away on foot.
After he took his car in to be serviced, which it was.
Yeah. A friend of Gordon told Channel 2 Action News, "You can't even feel safe at work. It's just sad." Gordon was taken to the hospital where he later died from his injuries. Oh, dear God.
That's sad.
It's a sad day. You can't even call this a wrong place at the wrong time type situation because you're literally at work, he said.
Yeah. He was literally doing his job. He was literally doing what that guy was paying him to do.
Yeah.
The next thing you hear is blocka. Oh, bro, you wanted new tires.
What kind of fucking gun are you shooting? A Fozzie Bear gun? Blocka.
I don't know. I was reading Batman earlier, and that was a gun the Joker used. It said blocka, and I was like, oh, I like that.
It's a Fozzie Bear gun.
Waka.
That bullet can't travel more than 2 inches. Blocka.
The guy thought his car was being stolen in a service shop by an employee. To put it past him, that was a Fozzie Bear gun.
Probably wouldn't know. McDowell is charged with murder and currently behind bars at the DeKalb County Jail. The friend of Gordon told Channel 2 Action News that Gordon has started working at Tires Plus this past summer and that he was excited about the job. God, that is sad.
That is.
That is sad.
I want to hear a statement from the gunman. Like, what was he thinking is going to, you took your car in to be serviced. He has to move it to service it. If he's wearing a Tires Plus uniform, he's not stealing your car.
That's the thing. I don't think he was. I think he was probably wearing plain clothes.
But still, I don't know. He has your keys. Why? You gave your keys to an employee.
Right. Yeah. Why don't you just say, hey, what are you doing before you shoot the guy?
Yeah. Like, hey, that's my car. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a service order here. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me see your service order. Yeah.
No, instead he was blocka and shoots him.
God, blocka. Using the Fozzie Bear gun. It's popular at Toys R Us.
It is.
Yeah, the blocker gun. We move on. We're going to India, where a group of Santas reportedly beat up by Hindu nationalists at an Indian carnival. That's right, Bruiser. They don't
believe in Santa and Hindu religion, do they?
It only gets better from here. These guys just wound up on someone's naughty list. That's what it says.
Makes sense. They beat up Santa.
A group of Santa Clauses in India was reportedly attacked and beaten by Hindu nationalists at a winter carnival on Friday. The Santas were giving out free chocolates. Of course, they should be beaten then, and Christian books to visitors at a zoo in the western city of Ahmedabad when they were attacked by members of the Bajrang Dal, a Hindi nationalist militant organization in India who hates chocolate and hates Santa even more.
They're declaring war on all Santas. You do not sell that chocolate here?
When we went there to protest against the people who were doing religious conversion activity, there was a clash with some of them. North Gujarat Bajrang Dal president Javalit Mehta told the news site. A video of showing two men dressed as Saint Nick being beaten went viral on social media. I don't mean to laugh at that, but I meant to laugh at that. According to the Times of India, which noted the incident was not reported to the police. Interesting.
They didn't report it to the police?
No, you never want to report yourself jacking Santa.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Santa didn't go.
I don't know. The Santas were apparently told to go back to their churches. The New Indian Express said, for the past 4 days of the Kankarya Carnival, missionaries have been promoting Christianity by selling books dressed as Santa Claus, which is a pagan figure, near the entry of the zoo, and promoting conversion activities by explaining about Jesus and Christianity. A spokesman for the right-wing nationalist organization Vishva Hindu Parishad told local media. I'm just looking at pictures of them being beaten. I'm sorry.
Take that Jesus and you get out. You get out of India with that Jesus.
I don't mean to giggle, but the image of Santa Claus in a fight makes me laugh. I don't know why that is.
Jingle all the way. A whole bunch of Santas get into a fight.
That's true. Big
Show's one of them.
You're right. On being informed about the matter, 20 activists led by North Gujarat President Bajrang Dal Javalit Mehta stopped the conversion activity in the government program at around 9 p.m. on Friday. The 7-day carnival was sponsored by the local government and celebrated Christmas Day as Good Governance Day to commemorate the birthday of former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So there you go.
There'll be no Christmas in India. No Christmas.
I think you've now offended every one of our listeners in India, by the way.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, I think you have.
I did.
Yeah, we do good business in India, so way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
The views and impressions of Beer City Bruiser are not the views and impressions of Darkness Radio. I
apologize.
I'm just trying not to laugh at Santa being beat. That's my deal.
I apologize, India. I'm really sorry.
I'm just laughing at you now turning as red as Santa's coat.
Yeah, I apologize, India.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy your
That's okay. You're burying yourself further.
Yeah,
just say I apologize and we'll move on.
I apologize,
okay,
India.
We'll move on.
But they're beating up Santa. Come on.
Well, at least one. It's the far whatever wing of Hinduism is beating up Santa. You have Hinduism.
Well, then I'm just making fun of them. Well, I shouldn't, because they'll probably come beat me up.
Yeah, they'll beat you up because you look like Santa too. So you've got.
If Santa was a 6'2", 300-pound toothless fat guy.
Well, with a beard.
That's true.
Yeah, just don't wear red. Don't wear your red gear out. You'll be fine.
So I don't have red gear.
That's right. Let's move on. Let's go to Colorado, where a library will reopen after traces of meth were found in the building. Evidently, when you go to Boulder, Colorado and go to the public library, it's known more for their meth than they are for their books.
Oh, so where is it listed in the card catalog? Is that under meth, M for meth, or is that under D for drugs? Like, how do I find my meth?
Under S for smoking. Yep. A library in Boulder, Colorado will partially reopen soon after it's closed its door due to elevated levels of methamphetamine found inside the building, the city said on Sunday.
What do they mean partially open? Is it like, we cleaned the meth out of this side of the library, but this side of the library, we still got a bunch of meth in?
Yeah, the decontamination process is kind of lengthy.
We're just waiting for Bill. He's got to smoke in this half of the library.
Well, the cleanup crew has to get energy from somewhere. The main library received increased reports of people smoking methamphetamine over a span of 4 weeks and closed December 20th to allow for environmental testing in accordance with a county ordinance. The test results showed traces of the drug in the air ducts and in library seating. Oh, this is great. So they're just sitting out in the open doing this stuff.
Yes. Can you tell me where your reference section is? Oh, yeah, it's right back there over there. Okay. Thank you very much. Please don't bother me for the next couple hours because I'm going to be high on meth.
2 employees were evaluated after feeling ill with what were thought to be low-level methamphetamine exposure symptoms, which may include dizziness, headaches, nausea, and fatigue, though they were cleared. This is truly a sad situation and represents the impact of a widespread epidemic in our country, Library Director David Farman said in another statement. The city is consulting with Boulder County public health officials and will take all steps necessary to prioritize safety. We are committed to transparency and appropriate remediation. The affected employees were transferred to other branches or worked from home. How do you work from home at a library?
You know, you have people come to your house and drop off books and you check them in there. I don't know.
The other thing is, are they cooking meth in the food section of the library? That's probably why they're getting sick.
Yeah.
Probably have it, or in the DIY section.
What? How dumb are these cops? Where they didn't think, hey, let's go to the library to find all these meth heads, because clearly it's bad enough problem that they had to shut down the library.
Well, you know, in downtown Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Public Library was where all the homeless people and all the strung out drug people were. The strung out drug people. Nice English there, Tim.
They're all mad at you now.
Where all the junkies hung out. They hung out at the Minneapolis Public Library because it was open. It was open from the early morning till late at night.
Oh, I know that, but wouldn't you think a police officer would stop by, just say, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Here's some money for some food. Oh, stop smoking the meth, or I'm gonna have to arrest you." you know?
Yeah. But yeah, but the cops would do a sweep through the Minneapolis Public Library at least once an hour.
Okay.
They just had an officer that came through and cleared out the riffraff, and
that's why they didn't have to close the Minneapolis Library.
They did eventually.
Oh, to clean it was for the meth?
No, not to clean it for meth. I think to rebuild it, honestly. They had to. They decided just to.
These Colorado cops should have taken advice from the Minneapolis cops, because then they wanted to close the library because the cops would have known there was meth going on there.
Yeah. Well, if you send a cop in once every couple of hours just to kick up the riffraff, then you know that you're not going to probably smoke meth in the library because you're probably going to get caught. I don't know. The city will hire remediation contractors to dispose of contaminated furniture and conduct a thorough remediation of the restrooms. Oh, they've got to be nice. Which could take several weeks, according to the city. The bathrooms will not be available to the public until new samples have been collected, and the city authorizes the library to reopen them. Employees will return to the location Monday to process book returns on when. You're right, they are checking them in at home. On Wednesday, the public will be able to pick up their holds while the rest of the building, excluding the bathrooms, will open on January 9th. So you got to hold it while you're at the library. Methamphetamine use has been a pressing issue in Colorado. Overdoses from meth doubled from 2013 to 2017. Admissions for the use of methamphetamine to what was once the state's largest drug treatment facility, the now closed Arapahoe House, almost doubled during that same time period. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the amount of methamphetamine seized by task forces formed by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration in the state, as well as by Colorado State Patrol officers, went up sharply from 2016 to 2017. So there you go, doing meth in the library. That's one way.
Why not?
It's one way to stay awake while you're reading a book.
Do meth and do research for your term paper.
That's right. You got it, buddy. 2 stories left here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Only one NSFW story because we're going to make it that way. The very last story today on today's show. Here's the first story. This is not the not safe for work story, but one we can all relate to. Bruiser, you're driving along in the car. You hear a song that gets you going. You've accidentally got the speedometer up and going a little faster than what the speed limit says you should be going, right?
Oh, yeah. I've done that numerous times. With as much time as I spent on the road. There's just some songs that you're just like, yeah, this is it. Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. Number 1 on my list for that.
Okay. Does Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55 get you going more than 55?
No, but Van Halen's Panama does. The guitar solo in that.
Yeah, all right. That's a good one. Let's see. What other songs? Can you think of any off the top of your head that get you?
There's a Tool song called Inema.
Okay.
That does it.
Okay.
Or The Pot. There's another one called The Pot. It's really good. That does that.
Okay.
And then Pearl Jam Alive gets me going too.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Let's see.
You know what? Van Halen's Human Beings from the Twister soundtrack.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
That's another one.
I was going to say on the hip hop side, Jay-Z's 99 Problems. That'll do it.
Yeah.
LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out.
Mama Said, yep. I'll give you that. Yep.
That'll get you speeding. There's a bunch.
Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, The California.
Oh yeah, California Love.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll get you going. But yeah, lots of songs will get you going fast. But will they get you going 120 miles an hour?
I wish.
That's the question. One driver said he hit 120 miles an hour after a good song came on his stereo. At least that's what he told cops.
Wait, he told the cops that's why?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not getting you out of a ticket.
No.
The cop might go, yeah, I understand, but no, you're still getting a ticket.
Well, this motorist is only 19 years old. He figured that would be a good excuse. He has a lot to learn.
I hope they say the songs.
Let's see if they do.
Yeah.
A 19-year-old motorist who admitted to driving his Honda 120 miles an hour on an Iowa interstate. First of all, you're not going to hit anything on an Iowa interstate.
No, I can see why he got up to 120 miles. You just got cornfield.
Yeah.
But it's a Honda.
It's a Honda. I'm surprised he got it up to 120.
Yeah.
And the thing didn't
still
just
in one piece.
Yeah, it didn't just fall apart magically.
Yeah.
When he hit 120, told cops that he floored the vehicle because a good song came on his stereo. This, according to a court complaint. After a witness called 911 to report a reckless driver was speeding and swerving all over the road, A sheriff's deputy spotted the suspect vehicle as it flew past him at 100 miles an hour around 9:15 at night. When the car was subsequently pulled over more than 2 miles up Interstate 380, driver Nicholas Bernard reportedly admitted to going 120 miles an hour at one point. Bernard, seen here, Bruiser, on your camera. Are you ready? That's Bernard.
He looks like a Bernard.
Doesn't he? Yeah.
That's a 19-year-old farm boy if I've ever seen a 19-year-old farm boy.
Yep. He looks like he's toted plenty of bales of hay.
Yeah. I don't picture him driving a Honda, but hey,
no,
to each their own.
Driving a John Deere, but not a Honda. Bernard explained that he reached the top speed because a good song came on onto his stereo in his 2006 Honda Accord EX.
Again, he must have had that tripped out because I don't see how he can go that fast in that.
He's got pure nitro going through that car. That's all I got to say. Bernard was only facing a speeding citation when he opened up the glove box to retrieve registration and insurance records. But then the deputy spotted something else, Bruiser.
Oh, here comes the drugs.
Yep. What else do you think Bernard, who looks like this, had in his glove box?
Bernard's got a bunch of weed.
You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
The eyes gave it away.
Oh, yeah. He has not only got bales of hay out there on the farm, he's got a large amount of marijuana in plain view in the glove compartment. He probably calls it the drug compartment.
He's got that devil's lettuce.
That's right. A subsequent search of the vehicle turned up a smoking pipe and other drug paraphernalia, according to cops.
Well, of course, you got to smoke it somehow.
That's right. Bernard was charged with a pair of misdemeanor drug counts and booked into the Johnson County Jail, from which he was released in the morning. No details as to the song that got him up to 120 miles an hour.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I hope it was something good.
I hope so too. Although knowing him, it was probably
Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places.
Yeah, it was probably some country song. Yeah.
Teach their own.
Yeah, to each their own. Okay, we're gonna make this last story not safe for work. Let me tell you why we're gonna do that.
Because we can?
Because we can, one. Yeah, you're right. That's the very first one. The second reason why is because this is kind of Comic-Con karma.
Okay.
This particular Hollywood actor, you might say, has it coming. See how I did that? Bruiser knows who we're going to talk about, so he has it coming. So we'll get into that in here in a moment. Put the kids away, put them in a closet somewhere while you listen to the story. Turn your listening device down a little bit, or put on headphones so the boss can't hear you and the people around you can't hear you if you're at work. We're going to talk about actor Hugh Grant.
Notorious.
Notorious. It was now, a decade or two ago that he got caught with prostitute Divine Brown.
Yep. He frequents the prostitutes.
He had, Bruiser, at one time, he had Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh, I know. And he was in every rom-com known to man.
And I mean, Elizabeth Hurley. He was going home with Elizabeth Hurley.
And he went and paid for it with that other girl.
Divine Brown.
Yep.
He took the divine step off the curb and got hit in traffic, right?
Yes.
He had Elizabeth Hurley at home.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I can't stress this enough. So there began the big downfall. I mean, he was on top of the world. He was doing huge movies, huge budget.
Wasn't there drugs involved too?
Yeah,
drugs and prostitutes. Yeah,
I think there was. There was a little bit of drugs, but it was mainly prostitutes. He was, he was stepping out on Liz Hurley with, let's just say, lesser stock.
Didn't he have Sandra Bullock at one time too?
I don't remember Sandra Bullock.
I know Elizabeth Hurley was the major one.
Yeah.
Which is like, you're like, he did what? On who?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a head scratcher, to say the least. I mean, I shouldn't have said head scratcher, but you know what I mean. So Hugh Grant, comes out, is terrified of a hot dog stalker or a wiener stalker at Comic-Con. He says he's still having nightmares about it. Yes, folks, Hugh Grant is being stalked by a wiener.
Which is just fitting for him.
It is. Hugh Grant was frankly terrified, see what I did there, of a uniquely dressed fan who stalked him at Comic-Con.
Why is he at Comic-Con? He hasn't done any comic book movies.
Right? I can't remember him being in one.
Neither can I. He's not the voice of any superhero.
I don't know. How the mighty have fallen, I guess. I don't know.
Well, wieners can chase him now.
Yep, that's right. Instead of him, letting the wiener chase others. The 62-year-old actor and he was in Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Okay, so the new one coming out. Gotcha.
Yep. Co-star Chris Pine, who is all of 42 years old. Doesn't Chris Pine feel like he should be older?
Yeah, he does.
He's only 42.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Relished, get it, about the memorable interaction in a recent interview with Collider. Grant admitted to being nervous on stage at San Diego Comic-Con back this last July because he's so old now compared to the hunky Pine. I don't know. Here's his quote. "I'm passe, and I thought, they'll bring out Chris Pine and they'll go mad," he said of the memorable Don't Worry, Darling star. They'll bring out the others, they'll go mad, and they'll say Hugh Grant, and there'll be dead silence. But as the story goes, Pine declared the crowd effing loved Grant, especially one person in particular.
A wiener.
Oh, yes. There was only one person at that convention who really loved me, and he was dressed for the whole 3 days as a hot dog, Grant recalled. But the stalker wouldn't get out of his grill. Get it? Wouldn't get out of his grill. I love
Look at all these puns.
I know. And he followed me wherever I went, but I couldn't shake him. "Do you remember the hot dog?" he asked Pine. "I was terrified. I still have nightmares about him." "I know, that's pretty great," Pine replied.
It would be great if Pine paid the guy to do this.
I know, right?
That's like a great rib.
If this was a rib that, that Pine paid for, right? If,
here's $100 a day. I want you just to follow him around.
Yep. Just as close as you can. Just stay on his tail.
Yep. Don't be creepy, but don't be overly creepy.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is in theaters on March 3rd. If you want to see an old guy in a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Elsewhere in the interview, Grant confirmed that he's married to James Bond, referring to actor Daniel Craig in Netflix's Glass Onion. Craig, 54, reprises his role as, is it Benoit Blanc?
Yes.
Yeah, in the Rian Johnson directed film. Admitting that his presence is a tiny cameo. Grant plays the detective's husband, Philip. It's the tiniest little moment. I don't really know why they wanted to do it, but anyway, I thought Knives Out was brilliant. And so, yeah, I thought, why not? I'll turn it up for a few hours. So there you go. Wieners. He's being stalked by wieners. And why not?
I think the next con I'm going to do, I'm going to hire somebody in a wiener suit to follow somebody.
I think that would be brilliant.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thank you, Hugh Grant.
Yeah. Oh, you should do Dalton Castle.
Yeah, if I'm on a con with him, that's what I'm going to do.
Yep. Have him follow Dalton Castle.
Perfect.
Yep. I think that would be awesome. So that does it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today. That is the New Year's Eve edition or New Year's Day edition, 2023. It's the first one of 2023. Want to thank Steve Jackson for being on today. The book is a good one, and it's creepy. Boy, folks, this book was just creepy. And I gotta fire you over a copy of it, Bruiser. It's a classic. Love Me to Death is the name of it. The chilling true story of William Wild Bill Cody Neal, who is the vicious Denver lady killer. You have never read such chilling graphic detail of how somebody's been killed, and it was gruesome the way he killed these 4 women.
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead and pick it up. We have a link in the description of this program. It is chilling. The entire book is just chilling, how someone could be this downright manipulative, just a con, and cold, calculating. You're going to want to get a copy of this book, folks. Steve Jackson, of course, is a New York Times best-selling author and has many, many books out there, but this one in particular is just chilling. So get a copy while you can. And by gosh, we'll be back here tomorrow. We've got on Darkness Radio, we've got Supernatural News. And on Wednesday, we have Richard Estep in. We'll be talking about spirits in jail.
I mean, Thursday.
I'm sorry, Thursday.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Supernatural News.
Supernatural News on Wednesday. Thursday, we have Richard Estep. We'll be talking about spirits in jail. We're kind of doing the crime thing all week.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got some good shows here to start off 2023. Yeah. So that's the lineup for this week. Bruiser, tell people what you got going on.
I'm actually off this week. Taking some time to recover physically. I'll be training at the AML training school. Actually, on Saturday, we have an open house. So anybody in the North Carolina area, if you want to come and see what it's like to train with good old Beer City Bruiser, come on by. Check my social media pages. I think it's like 1 on Saturday at the school.
Very cool. So yeah, if you want to train with Beer City Bruiser, check it out. We'll put the links up on our events page on darknessradioshow.com. And by the way, if you want to see anything that has to do with anything regarding us, darknessradioshow.com. You can see Ziggy's picks, Ziggy Starpup's picks for each week of the NFL. We've got bios up of all of the Darkness Radio hosts. We've got a link to Bob Dennis's Urban Legends Stranger Truths, to his show there. It's a microcast, so it's a different paranormal topic every day. It's a quick little microcast, not necessarily podcast, but microcast. So it takes a different topic every day and takes you on a little journey there. Lots of little facts about that particular topic. It's very action-packed. We'll put it that way, Bruiser.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun. Like I said, I listen to them when I tan.
There you go. So it's
I get 2 episodes in. So.
Wow, there you go. So yeah, you can choose to binge those and get a bunch of them in a half hour, 6 of them in a half hour, or you can just pick one and get an action-packed topic and get lots of facts about one particular topic in 5 minutes. And thank you guys for supporting that show as well. You guys have been doing a great job supporting that show, but keep it coming. Again, we'll thank you very much for joining us today on True Crime Tuesday. We'll see you again tomorrow for Darkness Radio. But thank you once again for joining us for the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday.